Okay, let's make this quick because guess what? My apartment is 1,000 fucking degrees right now. Like, for real, folks, the only thing hotter than this fiery plate of heavy metal tunery from Spirit Adrift is my fucking apartment. There is no doubt in my mind that if I were to spill some water on the floor right now, it would either boil or evaporate. Immediately, may I add. Of all the classic old-school heavy metal worship bands to pop up within the last few years, few have captured my attention and fascinated me the way that Spirit Adrift have. On top of being responsible for releasing some seriously fantastic material, including last year's critically acclaimed Enlightened in Eternity, this band has also been responsible for helping its mastermind Nate Garrett, previously of Gatecreeper fame, remain sober, remain healthy and happy over the course of the past few years. I'll spare you the story. It's been detailed pretty heavily in a variety of interviews over the past couple of years, a couple of which I'll leave in the description of this video for those of you who don't know, but essentially, Spirit Adrift is the reason Nate Garrett got sober. It's the reason he got his life together, and it's the reason he is as happy and as healthy as he is now. And as he has continued to grow happy and healthy, so too has Spirit Adrift continued to blossom and mature and refine their sound. What was initially born and conceived as a distraction from Nate's own bad habits has now evolved into one of the most prominent heavy metal bands of the past few years, resulting in the band now being signed to Century Media Records and now having released a brand new EP, Forge Your Future, which I can tell you right off the bat very much looks to expand on everything that Enlightened in Eternity did so well, while tackling some of the criticisms and nitpicks that have followed Spirit Adrift through the years. One common one being that Spirit Adrift, even at their best, do have the tendency to borrow some very popular and well-known riffs and arrangements from classic heavy metal bands such as Megadeth, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Ozzy Osbourne, and many more. And as much as I love Spirit Adrift, I will concede that there is an ounce of truth to this. I've always seen these moments as homages, as comic book style Easter eggs to a certain extent, but, you know, they exist nonetheless. The argument is not without merit. And clearly Spirit Adrift must agree to a certain extent because there's a lot less of these homages, of these Easter eggs, or of this theft, if you like, across Forge Your Future. Sure, the band is still very much trying to embody the classic old-school heavy metal spirit and attitude of bands like Judas Priest and Scorpions, to the point where there are a few segments that are briefly reminiscent of what I might expect from either band in this period. It's also worth noting, for the sake of transparency, that Spirit Adrift has cited Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train as a direct influence on the track Wake Up. But overall, I do think we're seeing a lot more creativity and even diversity in the songwriting, the musicianship, and even in the production of this EP. The EP's title track, for instance, is an incredibly upbeat, uplifting, triumphant kind of hard rock anthem with some doomy undertones and some really great vocals from Nate. True to its title, the track is very much about forging your own future, about looking back on your mistakes, acknowledging them, accepting them, not hiding from them, instead using them as an opportunity to grow, to evolve, to become a better person, a better man. And considering everything Nate has been through in the past few years, there's something deeply powerful about that. Especially with that surprisingly very emotional and genuinely cathartic guitar solo. I mean, there's so much tension built up between the slower, doomier, kind of hard rock and heavy metal rhythms and Nate's incredibly passionate vocals, and it just kind of erupts in incredible fashion with this guitar solo. I'm going to make a very bold argument here. Not only is this one of the best songs that Spirit Adrift have ever written and performed, this is also quite possibly the best heavy metal song I've heard in 2021. I fucking love this number. Invisible Enemy keeps this momentum going with a never-ending onslaught of incredibly enthusiastic guitar wizardry. I mean, there are solos and harmonies and riffs and hooks all over the fucking place here. It's surprisingly a very technical and flexible number as well. It's very much a smorgasbordian love letter to the influences of Nate Garrett's youth, and in its most upbeat and raucous moment even begins to resemble classic American power metal with some speedy riffs and some over-the-top guitar harmonies. The aforementioned Wake Up is perhaps the weakest cut on this album, but really only by default. It's still, all things considered, a very well-made track. I like how simplistic the hook is. This is definitely something that people are going to be singing along to live, you know, one day in the post-COVID landscape. Whenever that fucking thing arrives, who knows at this goddamn point. And just like every other track on this EP, most importantly, it's an all-you-can-eat heavy metal riff buffet. I mean, holy shit. His singing is great, his writing is great, don't get me wrong, but Nate is consistently at his best, at his most expressive on this EP with his guitar playing. This is some of the best of his entire career, quite frankly. It may only be a 3-song EP, but despite that, Forge Your Future shows Nate Garrett, and by extension Spirit Adrift, at their most confident, at their most creative, and at their most enthusiastic. They have not, in my opinion, sounded this hungry. It's very clear to me, and becomes so very quickly, that every moment following the release of Enlightened in Eternity was spent on crafting these 3 particular numbers. Honestly, I'd give this thing a 4 out of 5. I love this fucking EP. It's old school heavy metal thunder and firepower with modern production value and a surprising amount of creativity, flexibility, diversity, and emotion. People often assume that I really don't like a lot of classic heavy metal and hard rock simply because I'm so quick to criticize so many older bands, but I don't criticize them because I hate them. I criticize them because I know they can do better. I criticize Overkill and Anvil and Accept because they release the same album over and over and over again, and they're getting worse and worse with time, while younger bands, like Spirit Adrift, are getting better and better. Sure, Overkill, Anvil, Accept, they may have helped introduce me to heavy metal. They may have sparked the flame, but bands like Spirit Adrift have kept that flame going. So if you're like me and you're looking for something fresh and exciting and invigorating from classic heavy metal, look no further than Spirit Adrift, more specifically the Forge Your Future EP, because holy shit, this thing fucking slaps from start to finish. 4 out of 5, a great EP. Please check it out when it comes out this Friday via Century Media Records. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this EP? Do you not like this EP? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.